I was born in Mexico City in May 1977. I am the youngest of 17 children. From the beginning of my childhood until my adolescence, I was a victim of violence caused by my mother. This influenced me to separate myself from my family. Once I met the father of my children, I decided to immigrate with him. He always had the American dream on his mind. It took root with his sister who already lived in California. Even if my parents are migrants, I never heard someone talk about immigrating further because my mother was from Guanajuato and my father was from Querétaro. They both decided to move to Mexico City, where 12 of the 17 children were born. I married the father of my children when I was 20 years old. A couple of months later, my first daughter was born. We decided to migrate to the United States when she was 2 years old in October of 2019. We lived in Arizona with some of my husband's friends. Our goal was to stay in the United States, work for a few years, and then leave. But then our second daughter was born with special needs, and we decided to stay for her well-being. We worked whatever jobs we could to get ahead. Sometimes we even had 2 jobs. I babysat and helped some friends clean houses. More problems emerged from the arrival of my third son. The raids conducted by Sheriff Arpaio were very aggressive. A year after that, we had 1 more child, and I cannot receive any prenatal care due to the situation and persecution of immigrants in Arizona. When my youngest daughter was 6 months old, we moved to Colorado in May 2010. Our situation was very rough. No jobs were available, and we sometimes couldn't afford diapers. We were being persecuted, and it was more difficult with 2 other small children. Once we established ourselves in Colorado, my husband started working independently. He started his own remodeling and plumbing business. 2 years later, when everything seemed to be going well, on December 3rd, 2012, I was detained by police for driving with my headlights off. That's when the journey started. After being arrested for 3 days, they put an immigration hold and began the process of deporting me. Because I didn't want to be separated from my children, I decided to fight my case. I had to do it in a detention center in Aurora, Colorado, where I had to stay for 6 months. I came out of the detention center in May 2013 with a work permit and a stay of removal that I had to renew every year. That's the way it was until September 2016. I renewed it and the expiration date was September 2017. But on April 12th, I had to do my check-in with immigration. After being detained in Denver, I was transferred by an airplane to Las Vegas, then Utah, to Texas, New Mexico, and Texas again, where I was kept in detention center for 6 days. I was deported on April 18, 2017 to Ciudad Acuña and Coahuila, leaving a life in my precious and loved children. When I reached the Mexican border, I had very little money. I bought a bus ticket and traveled to Mexico City, where my family, whom I hadn't seen in 17 years, stayed. Arriving in Mexico was very difficult because you're back in a country you left and now you don't recognize. Without your identification documents or your children, you feel like the world is falling on you. You want to bury your head below the rocks and not feel the pain of separation and the life changes they push onto you. When I was in Colorado and started my journey with immigration, I connected with groups that helped immigrants. I was involved in looking for help to avoid being deported, but also to fight for our rights as immigrants. I met many people there, some of who contacted me when I arrived in Mexico. They told me about groups formed by deported people or people who had returned in Mexico City. I contacted one group, and though there was no compatibility, they helped me feel not so alone and out of place in the city that was now strange to me. I didn't see the importance of immigrant help groups created by deported people or people who returned until I was a speaker at the ODA. I think being in groups like these is important and helpful because you realize you're not alone and are surrounded by people who, like you, have been through a similar experience. You don't feel like you're being judged or discriminated against for being an immigrant. It's like we are all speaking the same language, a language that even some family members don't understand. With my experience as an immigrant, I want to collaborate with others so that they respect our rights, put a stop to family separations, and so that mobility is a right that everyone, not a select few, can exercise. To achieve the reunification of our families and to create structural changes not only in the United States immigration system, but in our country of Mexico. Many have died along the way, but those here have to be the voice of each and every one of them. Only by being united can we achieve this. Let us not lose faith because there's hope as long as there's life, and we have to keep fighting for our families and end these unjust laws that separate us and discriminate against us. We are not alone. There are many of us in this fighting journey. Only together can we be strong and create change for just and equal mobility for all.